The American West, a place of vast distances, dusty cattle trails, and hard-working cowboys. After the Civil War, the cattle industry boomed. Texas ranchers needed a way to get their herds to markets up north. Long cattle drives became the solution. These drives lasted months. They were tough, demanding work for the cowboys and the cattle. Supplying food for these cowboys on the move was a challenge. Enter the chuckwagon. A Texan named Charles Goodnight is credited with creating the first chuckwagon around 1866. He took a sturdy old army wagon and outfitted it with all the essentials: a water barrel, a hinged lid that became a work surface, and drawers for food storage. The chuckwagon was more than just a kitchen on wheels. It was a lifeline for the cowboys. It carried everything they needed to survive on the trail. The chuckwagon followed the cowboys, always there to provide a hot meal and a bit of comfort at the end of a long day. The most important man on a cattle drive wasn't the trail boss, though he might argue differently. It was the cook. The chuckwagon cook was responsible for feeding a hungry crew. He was up before dawn and often worked late into the night. His skills could make or break a cattle drive. A good cook could boost morale with a tasty meal. A bad cook, well, that could lead to grumbling and discontent among the cowboys. The cook did more than cook. He was also often the doctor, dentist, and barber. The chuckwagon cook was a respected figure. He was a master of resourcefulness, making do with limited supplies and cooking over an open fire. He was a vital part of the cattle drive, keeping the cowboys fed and ready to work. The end of a long day on the trail. Dust hangs in the air as the cowboys gather around the chuckwagon. The smell of coffee and beans simmering on the fire fills the air, a welcome aroma after a day of riding. Dinner time on the cattle trail was more than just a meal. It was a time for the cowboys to relax, share stories, and bond with each other. The cowboys, often from different backgrounds and walks of life, came together around the chuckwagon. They shared meals, hardships, and laughter, forging a sense of camaraderie that only comes from shared experience. The chuckwagon was a place of community. It was a reminder that even in the vastness of the open range, they were not alone. The shared meals and stories created a sense of belonging, of being part of something larger than themselves. The days of cattle drives and chuckwagons may be long gone, but the spirit of the chuckwagon lives on. It lives on in family dinners around the table, in the shared meals and conversations that bring families together. Just like the cowboys on the cattle trail, families today gather at the end of the day. They share stories, laughter, and the day's events. The dinner table becomes a place of connection, a haven from the busy world outside. So the next time you sit down to a meal with your family, remember the chuckwagon. Remember the importance of sharing a meal and connecting with those around you. For in the end, it's not just about the food. It's about the bonds we forge and the memories we create when we gather together.